Hidden within thousands of pages of election rules are these strict, mandatory guardrails designed to protect your vote. But every time we talk about election integrity, there's always that one critical question in the background. Who exactly is watching the watchmen?
That is absolutely the mission today. We're doing a deep dive into the legal architecture, specifically state election law, that mandates accountability. And this isn't theoretical. I mean, this body of law is dense, it's complex, and it exists because electoral integrity, well, it isn't a trust exercise.
No.
It requires constant, rigorous vigilance, all backed by the weight of the justice system.
And when you say legal weight, we're talking about rules that are just not negotiable. One of the first things that jumps out is the language.
Right.
The law doesn't really say may very often. It's almost always shall and must.
Precisely. And that mandatory language is the whole game. It's the legal difference between an official, say, choosing to follow a protocol and having a strict, non-discretionary obligation to do it.
It takes the ambiguity out.
Completely. If the law says a registrar shall do something, they have to do it, or they're in violation of the statute. And that's really the first layer of protection for citizens.
Okay, so the election is run by a procedure, not by a person's whim.
Exactly. And not following those procedures has serious weight. We're talking about real criminal consequences.
What kind of consequences?
Well, just as a baseline, if you knowingly violate any provision of the election title, even one without a specific penalty listed, that's automatically a Class E crime.
Wow.
And it just escalates from there. As we'll see, a candidate who improperly gets involved in the absentee ballot process, for instance, could face a Class C crime.
A felony-level offense in a lot of places.
Yes, the system treats corrupting the ballot process with maximum seriousness.
Okay, so let's trace this legal wall of accountability. Let's start at the absolute foundation, the voter list itself. When you look at the source material, how meticulously does the law define who can vote and how is that policed?
The main goal is to create a clear, single anchor point for every voter. The law is incredibly detailed about the concept of residence.
Right.
It's defined as the fixed in principle home to which the person, whenever temporarily absent, intends to return.
So it's about your intent to come back, not just where you happen to have a summer rental.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It actively combats that idea that you can claim residency in two places. Because the most critical rule, the one that underpins so much of this, is that a person can have only one residence at any given time for voting purposes.
And that's the guardrail. That stops someone from voting in multiple spots.
That's the first huge legal guardrail, yes.
Proving intent can be tricky. It feels subjective. What kind of hard evidence does the law say registrars must look at?
It demands objective proof, things that tie you to that specific location. Registrars have to consider real, non-ephemeral records.
What does that mean exactly?
We're talking about the address on your current income tax returns, the address on your driver's license, where your car is registered.
Oh, okay. So financial and civil records, things that are difficult to just falsify on the fly.
Exactly. The local election official is legally required to be a strict gatekeeper, and that duty doesn't stop after you register. A clean voter roll isn't a static list.
It's a security project.
It's a security project that requires constant maintenance. Registrars must regularly check the Central Voter Registration System, the CVRS, and actively update it.
What kind of updates?
Continuous data hygiene. They have to review records of marriage, death, change of name, and, crucially, change of address.
So if someone moves or passes away?
That information has to be integrated swiftly. It's not optional. This is the most basic defense against, accidental or even malicious double voting. It's proactive.
There's another interesting detail in there about residency for people who are incarcerated.
That's a fascinating legal distinction, and it's really designed to prevent political manipulation. The law is clear. A person in a correctional facility keeps the residence they had before they went to prison.
So the town where the prison is located doesn't suddenly become their home for voting.
Correct, unless they actually lived there beforehand.
And why is that so important?
Well, think about it. Without that rule, a huge state prison with thousands of inmates could completely swamp the electoral balance of a tiny little town. This rule protects that community's existing political structure.
So it's all designed to minimize any potential for duplicate voting, whether it's accidental or intentional. It's a very high legal bar to even get on the list. Okay, let's shift from registration to the physical act of voting. Let's talk about absentee ballots. This seems to be where the process needs the absolute most scrutiny.
Absolutely. The ballot leaves the security of the polling place. The law responds by building these rigid layers of accountability around the ballot's chain of custody.
The paper trail for every step.
And essentially, yes. Take the rules around third-person delivery. That's anyone who isn't the clerk or an immediate family member handling the ballot.
That feels like a weak spot. How do you stop unauthorized people from just collecting and delivering a bunch of ballots?
Through documentation. The municipal clerk has to keep a specific public list of all third persons designated to carry ballots. It even has to include their phone numbers.
So it creates an instant audit trail.
It does. If there's a question, the trail leads to a named, contactable person.
And what about drop boxes? They're convenient, but they're also a security concern.
Dropbox security is strictly mandated. Ballots have to be retrieved from them at least once every single day the clerk's office is open. And even more critically, there's a hard deadline.
Which is?
The box has to be physically locked at exactly 8 p.m. on Election Day, the statutory close of the polls.
Why is that 8 p.m. lock so important?
It removes all ambiguity. That timestamp guarantees no ballot deposited after the legal close of the election can possibly be counted.
Yeah.
It's about preventing even the appearance of impropriety.
And this is where the stakes get really high. Misconduct by candidates or their operatives. You mentioned that felony level offense earlier.
Yes. The law imposes a severe deterrent here. If a candidate delivers, receives, notarizes, assists with, or even just witnesses an absentee ballot that isn't their own, they are guilty of a Class C crime.
That is a staggering prohibition. To put that in perspective, a Class C crime is often on par with things like grand theft.
It is. The law is saying election fraud, even on a small scale, is that serious. It's telling every person running for office, do not touch the ballot chain of custody.
It's a huge legal wall around the integrity of that vote.
It is. But accountability also extends to the polling place itself through the challenge process.
Let's talk about that. So if you're in line and someone suspects you shouldn't be voting, what's the legal mechanism to deal with that?
It's a necessary check, but it's very heavily regulated to stop abuse. Any voter or election official can challenge another voter, but, and this is key, they can't do it on a hunch.
It has to be based on facts.
It has to be based on personal knowledge or a reasonably supported belief. They have to think the person is ineligible for a concrete reason, not a resident, not a citizen, something real.
And how do they prove that? You can't just weaponize it to slow down lines.
That's the safeguard. The challenger has to immediately file a signed affidavit swearing under oath to their belief and where they got their information. If they swear falsely, they've just committed a crime themselves.
So it forces them to be serious and transparent. The law puts a legal wall around the ballot with immediate criminal consequences for trying to corrupt it. Now, let's do a sharp shift here from the ballot itself to the money that fuels the campaigns. The need for transparency here is just as critical, especially when you're fighting dark money.
Absolutely. The campaign finance section is built on one thing, disclosure, especially for what are called independent expenditures, or IEs.
That's spending by outside groups, right? Not the campaign itself.
Exactly. Spending meant to influence the election without coordinating with a campaign.
So what's the threshold for reporting those IEs publicly?
This is where the law gets exceptionally stringent. Any person making an independent expenditure of more than $250 related to a single candidate's election has to file a public report.
$250. That is an incredibly low threshold.
It is. It's highly aggressive for transparency. It means almost any meaningful spending. A local mailer, a small digital ad buy, becomes public knowledge very, very quickly. The public is
that checked to prevent illegal coordination between a campaign and one of these outside groups.
That tied directly to the penalty of unsworn falsification. The report has to include a statement, under penalty of law, confirming whether the spending was done in cooperation or consultation with the candidate.
So the spender has to swear they didn't coordinate.
Yes. They either have to admit coordination, which is illegal, or swear they're truly independent. It's a powerful tool for prosecutors.
But the newest and maybe most critical safeguard is the ban on foreign government spending. This is where the law draws a really hard line.
This section targets external manipulation directly. It explicitly bans a foreign government-influenced entity from making any kind of contribution or expenditure to influence a U.S. election or referendum. It's a total shutdown.
And how does the law define a foreign government-influenced entity? That sounds complicated.
The law defines it pretty clearly. It's any entity where a foreign government holds a big financial stake or has veto power or controls the management. By defining it legally, it gives law enforcement a clear basis to prosecute.
And this is a two-way street, right? The foreign entity can't spend, and U.S. campaigns can't take the money.
That's right. A person or a campaign may not knowingly solicit, accept, or receive that kind of prohibited contribution. It's designed to ensure American elections are decided by American voters.
Finally, what about accountability for the election administrators themselves? They're under so much pressure.
This is a critical piece. The law mandates that municipal clerks have to attend approved training sessions at least once every 2 years.
And what's in that training?
Well, now it explicitly includes instruction on two very timely and serious subjects: the de-escalation of conflicts and the process for reporting threats or harassment.
So protecting the process also means protecting the people who run it.
Exactly. It ensures the officials are trained not just on counting ballots, but on managing the increasingly hostile environment they face. It's a way to support the human side of election integrity.
So we've looked at this really robust legal architecture that demands accountability everywhere. From proving residency to the chain of custody for ballots to radical transparency in campaign finance. And it's all backed by serious criminal penalties.
And the central theme, really, is the removal of discretion. The constant use of shall and must shows that election integrity isn't about trust. It's a meticulous, legally mandated process enforced by law. Every single step is governed by a specific legal obligation.
Okay, so here's the provocative thought for you to consider. Given the incredible detail and the severe criminal penalties we've just discussed, penalties that mandate strict adherence from everyone involved, why do challenges and allegations of fraud still dominate so much of the public discussion? And does the enforcement of these detailed rules actually match the legal severity of the crimes outlined in the statute?
And as you think about that gap between the legal framework and public perception, I'd encourage you to use the transparency that's written right into the law. The source material shows that things like incoming voting lists are available for public inspection after the election. You don't just have to believe the law is followed. The framework is there for you to engage, review the process, and verify these protocols for yourself. Go read the rulebook.